Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is my recap for the Unwanted Undead Adventurer. If you like my recaps, then please subscribe to the channel. The anime begins in a village with our protagonist Rent. He wakes up early in the morning. He is a low-rank adventurer in a village that we can't find. But the reason to wake up early is to get good quests that are offered based on their rank and skills. The mission may differ from hunting a monster, cleaning a sewer, or gathering herbs. While he takes a look at the quests, his friend arrives and asks him if he is going to the labyrinth again. He says yes, if he don't find any good quests again. They wonder how he can keep this up every day before heading off. He takes a closer look at the quest board, but doesn't see anything suitable for a low bronze rank, and thinks that it's going to be another labyrinth adventure again. Most adventurers work in groups, but he likes being alone. But the reason is that he is not that good. He's been an adventurer for over a decade now, and still in the bronze rank, second from the bottom. However, as long as he can hunt monsters and sell their magic gems and materials for a living, it's enough for him. He is pretty stable for an adventurer and even has saved up for any emergencies. But today he didn't have a cautious mind like an adventurer should have. Because in this labyrinth, that haven't explored and left empty, he found a hole in the wall that was not on his map. He rushes towards that hole and finds out that it was a passage. He was so happy after discovering this. It's something that can get him out of his poverty. After turning to the side, he is now sure that it was an unexplored area, and he'll be the first one to go. If he finds any valuable weapons or magic gems, then even informing it to the guild will make him really good money. Going in, he was very happy because he was the first one to explore the place. And as he goes into the room, he saw a giant heavenly dragon in front of him. A true monster. According to the rumors, they have different forms, though he knew it was a dragon at first glance. Just by his presence, Rent froze there. A low-rank adventurer has no chance. After being eaten by dragon, he wonders how he is still alive, and became a skeleton. He wonders if the dragon just pooped him out. He violates the law of gods. The dead cannot exist in this world. He is dead, but is conscious and remembers everything. He wants to go back to the village, but if he does, he will be purified by the priests. He grabs his sword and grabs on his feet. He didn't find any clue about the dragon, so he leaves from there and was roaming the labyrinth like any other mob. And monsters there also didn't pay any attention to it. Rent was planning to seek help from another adventurer that comes to the labyrinth, but he can't talk. A skeleton turns on him, and he advances with his sword. But he feels very heavy and much weaker than before because of not having any muscles. He could easily beat it if he was a human, but now he couldn't even hold his sword. And the other skeleton also cannot run properly. He tries to attach his leg back in misery. Rent realizes he cannot use swordsmanship, but he can use his spirit skills. They both are skeleton, but Rent has an advantage of skills and weapons. He gives him 2 blows and the other skeleton breaks, and he gains experience from it. He recalls his master's lesson that monsters have mysterious things in them. By collecting their experience and age, he can level up and evolve into a higher being. Rent applies it to humans, but it was on another level. She says that a skeleton can't evolve no matter what they do, but it rarely evolves into a ghoul. It is called existential evolution, and Rent thinks that he would evolve into a ghoul and have flesh to be more like a human. After that, he might be able to return to the town if he disguises himself. So he decided to achieve existential evolution and slaying all the monster in this dungeon and evolving into a ghoul. Meanwhile, her master is worried that Rent didn't came today for her evening session. After slaying a few skeleton, Rent is moving properly with his new body. It also has recovery effect. Thanks to that, he can use his spirit ability every time he fights. He decides to challenge a stronger monster. He notices a slime after turning in a corner. They represent weak monsters in groups with skeletons. They can be defeated by magic easily, but Rent isn't skilled enough to use attack magic, so he can only defeat it with his physical attacks. He can attack his core or slice it up to the point it cannot regenerate. Since he is not skilled enough to do that, the slimes are a threat to him. He needs to use a spirit magic that he can only use once a day. The slime leaps back and throws acid. He swings his sword and surprisingly he hits the slime's core. He collects the magical gems in the slime that is not acidic. After killing a slime, it is used as cosmetics for women. Meanwhile, in the village, one of the guild clerks, Sheila, is questioned if she found a party for a new adventurer they met. According to the letter, she is inexperienced, but is very good with the sword. She says that no one wanted to hire her, so she wanted to ask for help to Rent, but he hasn't returned since yesterday. It's unusual, especially since he didn't take any quests outside of the city. Since the new girl needed money, she told her to go to the same labyrinth where Rent is, the low-level labyrinth. Back in the labyrinth, Rent don't feel sleepy or hungry. That's a given, since he is undead. Even if he eats, it would fall onto the ground. He fought throughout the whole night, because he also doesn't feel exhausted. He realized that existential doesn't happen that easily. His physical abilities got worse when he became a skeleton, but after killing the monsters and gaining their experience, it's almost back to normal. He can use spirit and mana as well. He was amazed because he can use divinity even when he is undead. Divinity can't only heal illnesses and injuries, but it can purify water and keeps food fresh. Rent decides to keep fighting monsters. He can easily defeat 2 of them at the same time. But 3 would be difficult, and he has to run if it's more than 4. He realizes that he is still weak even after being an adventurer for over a decade now, 20 years if he includes the training. Though he can use spirit, mana, and divinity, which rare even high-ranked adventurers to use all 3. He is not stronger than any of them. He knows he is not good enough for the job, and people like him usually quit adventuring and work in village fields, or look for a new job. But he knew he will find a way as long as he is alive. He never quit training, and studied monsters and magic every day, taking all kinds of quests, no matter how small. He kept doing it for over a decade to become a mithril rank adventurer, which was even higher than gold or platinum, a level not even naturally gifted people can easily achieve. This rank was reserved for adventurers capable of saving the village alone. He desires to become mithril, even in this form, pulling himself together and going after more monsters. He found that in one day, he has become even stronger from when he was still human, easily taking down all the low-level mobs in the labyrinth. He is getting stronger every minute. He gets a flask to collect the slime to sell it later, but something unexpected happens. His body gets shocked, and his body starts to get covered in flesh, and he starts to glow in bright light. After taking out his glove, he realizes that finally he has evolved into a ghoul. He has flesh and it's dried and disgusting. If he keeps this up, he might even turn into a high-rank undead. Now, his goal is turn into a vampire to look just like a human. He even tries to talk, but this happened. He needs to practice. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more videos. Goblins can be dangerous in groups, so he fights them one-on-one. He has gained muscles after existential evolution, and is much more agile than a skeleton. And all of his skills also increased, so he can also strengthen his sword. He advances and beheads the goblins, and he is even stronger than his human form. In the next scene we see a girl fighting a skeleton and she kills it. Rent was happy seeing her because it's been a while since he saw a human. But he can't go out like this because she'd either kill him or run away. So he watched from a distance. Rent thinks that the girl is a rookie, but she was sent there by the guild clerk Sheila. The girl then roams the labyrinth and Rent secretly follows her. A skeleton appears behind her and tries to hit her, but she is weak, so she needs to land a lot of hits. She is then cornered while fighting, but she wants to become an adventurer, so she advanced towards the skeleton, but it grabbed her sword. As the skeleton was about to hit her, Rent decided to jump in and the skeleton turned towards him. Rent, using his power, splits it in half. Rent tries to introduce himself, but she was scared and told him to stay away. Rent then told her that he is not an enemy and throws his sword. She calms down and Rent introduces himself as an adventurer. She asks him about his appearance, if it is a disguise. Rent explains that he is undead. He didn't look like a normal monster, but she thanks him for saving her. She asks him if he is going to kill her, to which Rent says no, but he wants her help. He wants her to buy him clothes, because he wants to go back to village. She asks a robe to hide his appearance. Rent thanks her and gives her money and tells her that she can have the rest if she does the job. She introduces herself as Rena Rupaj. As the daughter of the night, she'll repay the debt. She leaves and Rent thinks that she is cautious around him and might report it to the guild. But he had a feeling that she'll not betray him. He tells her goodbye and returns to the labyrinth. Back in the village, Clerk Sheila meets Rena, and she is glad that Rena isn't hurt. In the labyrinth, Rent cannot believe that he is getting even stronger and his body is in his control now. He kills a huge slime. His eyes got even better. He thinks that it's strange that he got all his power after becoming an undead. That's when Rena returns looking for Rent. Rent cannot believe that she came back. Rent appears. She pulls her sword and asks if he is Rent or any other ghoul. He says that he is Rent, because ghouls don't show up on earlier levels like this. She noticed that he got better at talking and tells him that he got the clothes. He walks toward the bag and she steps back because she is still a bit scared, and asks for a little more time to get used to it. Rent says it's fine and takes a look at the clothes. It was a robe and Rent liked it. It is plain color so that it won't catch any eyes and covers the whole body. But she also brought other thing that he might need. She went to the village and Sheila from the guild showed her the best shops. She also brought gloves and shoes so his arms and legs also gets hidden. Rent thinks how kind Rena is. He wanted to cry, but he can't because he is a ghoul. He puts on the clothes, and he is able to move in this clothes. Rent thinks that it's perfect for him. She shows him the mirror, but his face still stands out. Then she took out a mask from the bag. She bought it so he doesn't have to go in public with that face. Rent then takes the mask near his face and it sticks to his face. He looks good, but he can't get the mask off. She apologizes because she bought it from a market shop even though it looked suspicious to her. But it was cheap, so she bought it. She explains that nothing happened when she touched it. Rent thinks he has a bad luck because it was a cursed mask. He uses his divinity to remove it, and it also responded, but he runs out of energy. Rena apologizes for bringing him a cursed item. Rent replies that now he has to hide his face anyway, and it responded to divinity, so he has to save up money to ask a mage to break its curse, and tells Rena to not worry about it. Rena then holds his hand and tells him that he is not a bad person, so she is not scared anymore. But Rent says that she doesn't have to force herself until she is used to it. But she won't take long, and tells Rent to return to the village. They heads towards the village, and Rent was surprised that she came all the way to Malt. Rena wanted to see the world outside and get stronger to become a full-fledged adventurer. They arrived at the gate of the village, but Rent is afraid that they'll suspect him if he showed them his ID. Rena asks if they should enter from the west gate, the one that is not usually used. Rent thanks Rena for helping him, but Rena is still willing to help him as much as she can. And Rent do need someone, but helping a monster will get her in trouble, and Rena might lose her adventurer's license, but she thinks it's okay if she risks her life for him. They proceeded to the gate and were asked to show their IDs, and after seeing their IDs, Rent is asked about his appearance. The guards get suspicious. Rena says that he is cursed and cannot take the mask off, and was injured by a monster. Rent shows them the scar. He tells them to try pull it off, but it didn't work. Then the guards let them enter the village. Rent thanks her for the help, and then he disappears. She tried shouting his name, but no luck. Rent was hiding of the roof and thinks that she is a good person, and Rent will apologize her when he will look more human. He goes to his master's place because he needs someone he can trust. He opens the door and sees that she was sleeping. He wakes Lorraine up and says that he will hit her with a book. She wakes up and saw that it really is Rent. Rent removes the glove, and she was shocked and asks him what happened. The episode ends here. Thanks for watching, and if you like it then give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want a girl like Lorraine.